let's start with this question. Have you ever heard of an armadillo? Well, with its body covered in scales, you might think they're reptiles, but they're actually mammals.
Now, don't let this intro mislead you. We aren't here to talk about armadillos.
Those can only be found in America. However, here in the Philippines, we do have a species that is just as special. If anything, they're the only mammals completely covered in scales.
These are
the Palawan pangolins. Before everything else, let's get a general geographic overview of pangolins, whose scientific name and order is Phalidota. Its extant family, extant meaning living, comprises of 3 genera. Manis is the genus of pangolins that you'd be able to find in the continent Asia. Now, through the 3 genera, there are only 8 species of pangolins in the world.
The one found in the Philippines
is our animal of the night, the Palawan pangolin, also known as Manis cullionensis.
And as its scientific name suggests,
Manis cullionensis can be found especially in Culion Island, as well as other places in the province of
course, Palawan.
In the local language of Palawan, these pangolins are called tanggiling. However, in Bisaya, these creatures are called balintong, which means somersault, or in Filipino, bumaliktad. Pangolins can live in a variety of habitats, from tropical rainforests to arid deserts. But we obviously don't have deserts here in the Philippines, so naturally, we'd be able to find the Palawan pangolins while strolling around forests and grasslands. Since they're both nocturnal and reclusive, we'd usually find them alone or in pairs in the night. In their ecosystems, you'd be able to find plenty of insects. Palawan pangolins use their strong sense of smell to track these insects down and feed on them.
Since they're examples of myrmecophages,
they consume mostly ants and termites. But when it comes to structure,
the first thing you need to know about pangolins is that
they do not have teeth. Instead, they have a long and sticky tongue that allows them to grab food, especially to reach far inside ant nests. Additionally, as an alternative for teeth,
they eat pebbles and sand.
Okay, that needs context. So when pangolins eat these pebbles and sand, they actually end up staying in the pangolins' gizzards,
which are the hind parts of their stomachs.
So when their actual food passes through these gizzards, the pebbles and sand can substitute as teeth and aid in breaking down food there in their stomach. Because of their use, these pebbles and sand have actually been given a name called gastrolith, and they're also eaten by axolotls and crocodiles for the exact same purpose.
Now, you may have thought of the issue that
when pangolins come into direct contact with small insects when eating,
don't they get all over the pangolin's face?
That could be pretty dangerous. Well, as a protective mechanism,
pangolins have muscles that close their eyes and nostrils to protect themselves from insect bites.
Naturally, aside from insects, pangolins have to protect themselves from predators. And when they do, they secrete a foul odor and roll into a ball,
effectively shielding their bodies with their scaly exterior.
Plus, aside from that, they've got prehensile tails too. So these prehensile tails allow them to balance themselves on their hind legs and allow them to grasp tree branches,
similar to that of a monkey.
Now moving on to the Palawan pangolins families. Although pangolins share similar characteristics with anteaters and armadillos, they are actually more closely related to the order Carnivora.
That includes cats, dogs, and bears.
This is an example of convergent evolution, where they developed similar physical traits
for eating ants.
Now, our balintongs are distinct from the closely related Sunda pangolins, which are other pangolins found in Southeast Asia,
by its smaller body-to-tail ratio,
a shortened head, and smaller scales. In fact, the balintong has the greatest number of scale rows across all its back out of all Asian pangolins. Which, fun fact,
pangolin inspired the creation of the Pokemon Sandshrew.
but despite how amazing these creatures are,
Palawan pangolins are currently listed by the International Union for Conservation of Nature
and the Palawan Council for Sustainable Development as critically endangered. Popular environmental issue, deforestation can lead to their habitat loss. But more importantly, pangolins lose their lives because they are the most trafficked animal in the world. Their scales, which are made of keratin, is the same material that makes up fingernails, hair, and horn. And these are used in traditional Chinese medicine. In addition to that, their meat is also considered a delicacy. Now, with the number of pangolins being killed,
it is important and odd, really,
to note that there aren't any studies that support any medicinal claims in the consumption of pangolins. In fact, remember when the COVID-19 pandemic started?
Research suggests that pangolins may have been an intermediate host to the coronavirus.
The line of thought being the virus originated from the bats, which were legally being sold in Wuhan, China's markets. Now, since pangolins were also brought to the market, researchers suspect that the virus was transmitted from the bats to the pangolins. And when these creatures were consumed by people, well,
you know what happens next.
So, even with the COVID crisis,
you would have thought that maybe people started eating pangolins less, but no.
Despite this, the hunting and poaching of pangolins in Palawan did not stop. I want to tell you that pangolins are being preserved here in the Philippines, but they're still being illegally killed and hoarded for their scales and for their meat.
Just so that they can keep it as a sign of status, or so that they can earn money having it sold in Chinese markets.
In fact, when PCSD rescues Palawan pangolins, they find a lot of them without their scales. And when they see them, they're either already dead or dying from pain.
From 2018 to 2019, they reported that nearly 7,000 Palawan pangolins were trafficked.
That's just about 700 kilograms of Palawan pangolin scales taken away from them. Let that sink in. Like all living things, pangolins are important to their ecosystems. If we didn't have our Palawan pangolins, what could happen to the pest control in Palawan, and what about the ecological balance that it's a part of? At the moment, poachers and hunters are being arrested here in the Philippines, which brings hope
for us and these wonderful endemic species. But still,
these aren't the only creatures that are critically endangered.
And we'll still need to raise awareness. And so, we invite you to be part of raising awareness by sharing this information. You may also help by reporting illegal trade through the DENR Action Center or the WildAlert App. Thank you so much for listening, and we hope you learned something new.